Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. The mystery of medieval silver coins found 1,000 miles from where they were minted. This could actually help fill in the gaps to some history. Yes, indeed. Let's explore. This is an article from the New York Times as shared with me by Doctor Who and Rocky Superstar. You know I love to do stories like this about found precious metals treasure, and this is no exception as it involves history and European history. Fascinating indeed. Medieval French coins have been unearthed in Poland. So begins a mystery about a scavenger hunter's find to be part of the lost booty once extorted by Vikings to spare Paris from ruin. And a full-scale excavation may tell the tale for sure. So in Beskupiec, Poland, during more than 10 years of tramping through fields and forests with a metal detector, a Polish treasure hunter has found the wreckage of an American-made Sherman tank, the scabbard of a French sword used by a soldier in Napoleon's army, a Prussian helmet, and many other relics of Europe's bloody past. Wow. And here is a picture of this treasure hunter in Poland with his metal detector where he discovered these silver coins minted during the Carolingian Empire last year. In November, however, he made a discovery that has startled even scholars steeped in the ebb and flow of European warfare and left them wrestling with a tantalizing question. How did a cornfield in northeastern Poland come to hold silver coins minted more than 1,100 years ago and nearly 1,000 miles away by the medieval rulers of what is now France? One theory, promoted by a Polish archaeologist leading the hunt for an explanation, is that the silver coins date from one of Europe's earliest and most traumatic episodes of armed extortion, when an invading Viking army led siege to Paris in 845 and had to be paid off with more than 2 tons of silver to prevent it from destroying the city. The Vikings, Scandinavian warriors greatly feared because their unruly habits and military prowess, later systemized what became an elaborate protection racket in the 11th century by imposing taxes in England known as Danegeld tribute payments in return for safety. What happened to the huge ransom they received for sparing Paris in 845, however, has always been a mystery. The Vikings had a major trading post called Trousseau just 30 miles from Beskupiec, the Polish village where the coins were found. That has led some experts to speculate that the silver extorted in Paris made its way there and then spread into nearby areas as part of a flourishing Baltic region trade, whose main commodity was slaves. And here we can see a photo of some of the silver coins that were discovered near Beskupiec. Let's see if we can get a bigger look of those. There they are. Interesting indeed. Look like to be in pretty good shape as well. This is an exceedingly rare and surprising find, said Lukas Sosebskansky, the head of archaeology at a regional history museum in the Polish town of Ostroda. We previously only knew what happened in Paris from written sources, and also the Viking series on the History Channel, which, they take a lot of liberties with that, but I saw it and remember it from that. But now suddenly we have it in physical form. Others are skeptical. Simon Coupland, a British expert, noted that the coins found in Beskupiec seemed to date from several years before the 845 siege. But he added they could be part of the booty extracted by the Vikings during earlier attacks on the western part of the empire established by Charlemagne, or simply the proceeds of regular trading and raidings by the Vikings. Of course, that would make total sense. Mr. Szyzekpansky acknowledged that his theory that the coins were part of the ransom of the Vikings extorted to spare Paris was merely a working hypothesis. A clearer picture, he said, would emerge after a chemical analysis of the coins and a full excavation of the site where they were discovered by the local treasure hunter Provincial Witkowski and a fellow scavenger, Majek Milowicz. These names sound intrinsically Polish to me. I wonder why. But no matter what, Mr. Zapansky said, the discovery of silver coins in the Polish hamlet from so far away and so long ago was both exciting and unsettling. In a country whose own capital, Warsaw, was occupied and then obliterated by the Nazis during World War II, the survival of Paris more than a millennium before, thanks to a payment to the Vikings, has a painful resonance. It sure does. Boy, I tell you what, Poland has been through a lot, and they have been very extremely resilient people considering their history. I have a lot of respect for Poland and the Polish people for sure. Despite their reputation for violence, medieval Vikings, Mr. Zapansky said, behaved far better than 20th century Germans, whose actions during the war are incomparable with anything in world history. They were barbarians for sure. The war in the East of Europe was particularly brutal. And by the way, the Russians didn't treat their enemies much nicer either, for sure. The trauma of World War II, he added, has severely hampered archaeological work in northern Poland. Much of that area used to be a part of Germany, and post-war Polish archaeologists focused on uncovering and celebrating their battered country's own past, have had little interest in digging up reminders of German hegemony. Tipped off by Mr. Witkowski about the November find in the cornfield, Mr. Shapansky joined forces in March with amateur treasure hunters. Using metal detectors, they uncovered more than 100 more silver coins minted during the Carolingian Empire, which was founded in the early 9th century by Emperor Charlemagne. His empire once covered most of the territory that today makes up France, Italy, and Germany. Mr. Szanowski is now making plans for a full-scale excavation of the field this year. Once a farmer who owns the land finishes harvesting his crops, the discovery of yet more Carolingian coins, the archaeologist said, would strengthen his belief that the area contains part of the vast hoard of silver paid to the Vikings. Most of the coins found so far date from the rule of Louis the Pious, Charlemagne's son, with only one minted under his grandson, Charles the Bald, who ruled the western part of the Carolingian Empire and was empowered during the Viking siege of Paris. Very interesting history here, or that's what's being discovered. This could literally rewrite parts of that history. This, according to Stéphanie Lebec, an emeritus professor at the University of Lille in France, and a leading expert in French medieval history, suggests that the stash had been collected together at the beginning of Charles' reign, so around 840 to 850, in the heart of his kingdom, which was situated in the Paris basin. And here we see Mr. Witkowski said he had initially paid little attention to his find because the buried coins are often just dropped Polish zikois, whatever that is. But here is a picture of that. It's kind of hard to tell what that is. So far, however, archaeologists have found only coins, not any of the silver ingots that most certainly contained in the payment extorted by the Vikings from Charles the Bald. The discovery of ingots, Professor Lebec said, would strengthen the ransom theory. The silver coins so far uncovered, many of them intact, but others smashed apparently by the farmer's plow, have been sent to Warsaw to be analyzed by experts at an archaeological laboratory run by the Polish Academy of Sciences. Matos Bykowski, the head of the laboratory, said he was skeptical about the Paris ransom payment theory, but said the coins were still a very significant find, indicating the reach of the Carolingian Empire far beyond its heartland in Western Europe. The coins, he said, have little financial value, but would most likely fetch under $200 each in the open market. But their value as a source of information is absolutely amazing, and I think that's pretty awesome to think about. Particularly important, Mr. Baguki said, is the light they shed on medieval trade routes, many of which involved around the buying and selling of local people who had been captured in battle and sold or forced into bondage by slave merchants. The Vikings played a major role as intermediaries in a brutal business fed by voracious appetites for slaves from Europe among wealthy Muslims in the Middle East and later Central Asia. Silver coins found previously in the area have mostly been Arab dirhams used by Muslim merchants to pay for human chattel. Mr. Wachowski, the treasure hunter, said he had initially paid little attention to his find because buried coins were often just an annoyance, usually dropped Polish zalotskis, which are, I guess, the coins. I generally don't like coins, he said. So very interesting indeed. After washing his find at home and realizing it was not just ordinary pocket change, he sent photographs to Mr. Zapansky at the History Museum Ostroda. The archaeologist quickly called him back and said, I was excited. I could not understand what he was saying. Mr. Burkusi recalled and realized that he found something important. Fearful and that the unscrupulous treasure hunters will start searching and stealing the silver coins, the authorities have now sealed off the site near Beskupiek and declared its exact location as state secret. So this could be something pretty big. We'll see how it plays out. For sure. Indeed. At the same time, they recently rejected Mr. Wachowski's application for a search permit, complaining that maps he submitted detailing the areas he and his associates would like to search were in the wrong format. Well, there you go. So it seems like they're not treating him very well, even though he discovered it. There would be a lot more stuff in our museums if they did not make everything so complicated, Mr. Wachowski said, except for the archaeologists at the History Museum, he added. Nobody has even said thank you for finding these coins, and that's too bad they're treating him this way. He's the one that discovered them. Yeah, and that seems to be the case. And many times, and some of these metal detectorists, they look beyond themselves and look at the grander scheme of history. But he should be rewarded for his selflessness in this, in my view. Very interesting indeed. Thank you again to Rocky Superstar and Dr. Who for sharing this with me. Hope you all enjoyed. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.